for anyone that misses it. Okay, now depending on what device you're on, if you're on a phone or an iPad, you might need to swipe across to find a screen that shows whoever's talking or both of us at the same time.
Okay.
Go for it, Kimmy.
Okay, so I'm going to start with cooking some sauteed onions at high heat. So this is in a TM6 where we're going to actually be getting a caramelization on the onions. And then we're going to go, and with the onions, we're going to make a pumpkin soup. So if you have a TM5, you would do exactly the same. You would probably just saute on varoma temperature on a low speed. Okay, so what I've got here is about 250 grams of well, first of all, I better add the oil. Need to add something that's going to make them nice and caramelized. So I'm going to add the oil. And then we've got about 250 grams of onions. So when I make pumpkin soup, I always make it my own. And I've got 2 cloves of garlic in there as well. And it says with the TM6 that you actually cut the onions into wedges. And the reason for that is to give a bit of weight so that when you put on the high heat, it's going to go around. So if it's not working, it means you've either got not enough or too much onion in your bowl. So you need to make sure that you stick to what the weight measurements are on your TM6. And then we're going to place the splash guard on. So for anyone who doesn't know what the splash guard is, it fits over the top of the Thermomix. I'm going to get it into screen. And the hole that's covered covers the whole of the Thermomix, but it still lets the steam out. So we can like reduce the steam in there and make it nice and crispy. It asks that you've put that on a TM6. And then all we need to do is just turn the dial, and it's going to go on and start doing its thing.
Doing its thing.
Doing its thing. And you can actually hear the sizzle, which is really good. So the other things you can do sauteed onions, sauteed mushrooms, eggplants. You can do your chicken cubes, your beef cubes. So you can pre-do all of these things if you're going to use it to maybe put into a slow cooker if you have a big family, or even to slow cook in your Thermomix. So it's one of those things that you can actually caramelize the base of your like with your onions and your garlic and then your meat, and then you can add it to even to the pan and put it in the oven to do a nice casserole if you're cooking a lot, especially for sort of like a lamb dish or a beef dish. So really nice.
Awesome. Thank you, Kimmy. So that's going to cook away for a while. While we're doing that.
Sorry, Kara's just said, is it a particular mode? Just look up, if you have a TM6, if you just look up saute, all the things that use the high heat caramelization function will be under saute in Cookie Do if you have Cookie Do.
Yeah. At some point when we've got a little bit of time, I'm actually going to jump into Cookie Do and show you a few of those things. So hold that thought, Cara, and we'll come back to it. But for now, let's just get started on our butter. So butter is purely cream separated. So we're separating the milk solids and the butter fat. So all we do is we do have a recipe on Cookie Do. Put my screen down there a little bit. We pop our butterfly whisk in. Now, hopefully you all know how to pop your butterfly whisk in. There is a correct place to put it. If you look at your blades, there's only one blade that really points up. The rest point down. So if the one that's pointing up is at 12 o'clock, your butterfly whisk sits just behind that at sort of 5 to 12. All right, and in doing that, when it pushes around, it locks in so that it doesn't jump out all the time. If you put it the other way, it just comes out really easily. All right, so the pointy uppy blade at 12 o'clock and the butterfly just in behind that at 5 to 12. 600 grams of pure cream. Now, I don't even have pure cream. I've just got thickened cream. That will work just as well. Whatever cream you've got will be fine. And the closer your cream is to expiration, the quicker you'll be able to separate it. So I've just poured all of that in there. And we pop the lid on, and it presets it for a minute and says turn to speed 4. Now, the thing with butter is we have to really listen to what's going on. So it's going to start to thicken. Hopefully you can still hear me talk. Kim, just let me know if you can't when I've got this going.
I will.
All right, so what it's doing now is whipping up, and we're essentially whipping cream. So if you wanted thick cream for your scones or something like that, this is the way we do it. And like I said, the closer to expiry date that it is, the quicker it will thicken. So there's no set time for whipping cream or making butter. You really have to stand at your machine and have a listen. There is a very fine line between over whipped cream and butter. So that's been 34 seconds, and we have whipped cream, really whipped cream, okay? Michelle, if you can't see me, it might be the device you're on. Swipe your screen to the side and you'll probably see a different screen. All right, so I'm going to put that back on and we're going to keep going. Now, as I said, when you're making butter, what you're doing is you're separating the fat from the milk solids. So what you'll start to hear is it going really kind of sloshy sounding, and that's the butter fat splashing around with the buttermilk. So you can definitely hear the difference. And I know you can't hear it through Zoom because Zoom cuts out the background noises, but I'll try and explain it to you as best I can. So I'm just adding a bit more time because that first minute's up. Right now it's gone super, super thick. So that's been another 30 seconds. And I'll just give you a quick look. Obviously, if you're just going for butter, you won't be stopping at all these times. That's super thick and it's starting to look a little bit curdled, which means that we're starting to separate. Right, and now I can hear that it's started to change down. So it's funny because it goes from quite runny to really thick, and then it starts to sound runnier again because it's separating. But you'll notice that your machine starts to move around a little bit more and totally changes sound. And we do this. So you can see there, do not want to pour buttermilk on my keyboard. You can see I've got the buttermilk and the butter solids there. All right, so totally two separate elements there in that bowl now. So that buttermilk, we definitely want to save. So I'm going to show you a little trick. Take out your butterfly whisk. Pop your simmering basket straight in on top. All right, don't try and tip it out. All right, now hold it in so it doesn't fall out. And now it's going to drain the buttermilk out, hang on, that way, without actually having to remove everything else. Sorry, I'm so bad at this, like, mirroring in the computer screen and it being backwards to where I want to go. That's getting too heavy. All right, so it just saves you tipping everything out when you just put the simmering basket in on top. That's really good when you're doing lemonade and things like that as well. We'll just shake it all out. All right, so that there is our beautiful creamy buttermilk, which we're going to pop into our bread in a minute. And we're left with our butter fat. All right, now what we want to do is rinse any excess milk solids out of that, so it's just purely fat, which will stay fresh. So even when you're using cream that's out of date, we're rinsing all the milk solids out. And as we know, fats and oils stay fresh, or fresher for longer than things like this. So what we do is keep following the steps, but we add about 500 grams of chilled water. Now you want it to be really cold because we don't want to melt the butter. And we pop our lid back on. And we put it on speed 4 for 5 seconds. And it will look a little bit like we have buttermilk and butter again. But we don't want to keep this one because it's too diluted. So I would usually tip that straight down the sink, but I'll just do it here for now. So just put my simmering basket back in. And just drain that out. Now, if you want your butter to stay as fresh as possible for as long as possible, you want this water to run clear. So I find that if I rinse it 4 times, usually, it'll be really clear and it will last long enough. If you leave the milk solids in it, that's when it will start to go rancid sitting on your bench. And that's not really what we want. So the recipe actually only goes through rinsing it once. But if you just press the back button, hopefully you all know that you can go back. I don't know if you can see that. I'm just going back. Then I can just do it again. And it's still a bit milky, but it's definitely clearer than it was. All right. So I will do that a couple more times. I'm not going to do that now.
Okay.
But what you can do now is drain that out really well. So either pour it into your simmering basket and let it drain out. Pop it in a really clean chucks cloth and squeeze all the extra water out. And then you can roll it into a ball, pop it in a container. You can roll it into a log and wrap it in Glad wrap and freeze it. That's really good if you've done flavored butters. So at this point, you could add in some garlic, some herbs, chop them up, and have your garlic and parsley butter ready to freeze into little rounds. If you add a little bit of extra virgin olive oil, that will just help to soften your butter as well. So the spreadable butters that you buy all have a little bit of oil whipped into them to make them that little bit softer. Also salt. I prefer my butter a little bit salted, so I add a little bit of salt. Salt will also help to preserve it. So yeah, you can do whatever you like with your butter. I am going to put mine into my butter bell. So this little butter bell, which is available on the mix shop, holds your homemade butter and it goes in, you put it in this dish and then place it in upside down, and you have a little bit of water, like a centimetre of water in this dish, because that prevents any oxidization. So it keeps your butter fresher for longer. And as long as you're not somewhere where it's really stinking hot and your butter's going to melt entirely on the bench, mine just sits on the bench like that and lasts for days or a week. I mean, we get through that much butter with 4 kids pretty quickly. Yeah, so that's butter. So who's excited to give that a go now? The trick with the butter is just keep going. So many people say, oh, I don't know, I don't think I did it right. You can't turn it back into cream once you've made it into butter. So keep going. If it's not butter and buttermilk yet, do it a bit more.
Okay.
All right, Kimmy, are you right?
Yep. So my onions have finished and I'm like Megan, I've got to work out how I can get this into your view back to front. So you can see that I've got a really good caramelization on that. And in the recipe, you can actually chop that a little bit so that you don't have those like wedges that I've got. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go straight to our pumpkin soup recipe, which, and I'll just move it a bit closer so I can show you. If we go into the recipe and go to recipe details. So start cooking. The 3 little dots up the top of the screen next to the next button. If I go into there, I can have a look at the recipe detail and I can scroll down because the first part of the recipe is actually sauteing your onion in oil or butter, I think it uses. And then it chops it first and then it does a saute. And then we can go to step 3, which is where I'm going to start from now to make the pumpkin soup, where we add the 500 grams of pumpkin and we add a carrot. Now, when I make this, I always increase my pumpkin to 100 to 150 grams. And I use a large carrot because I like my soup to be a little bit thicker. And I found that this sort of 600 to 700 grams of pumpkin with a big carrot works really, really well. So I'm just going to pop that into here. And then we're actually going to chop that up. So the chopping up of that is going to help us cook in a quicker time. So it's not going to take too long. So it's just going to chop for 15 seconds on speed 7, which that'll block out. And we can see that we've got like a nice puree in there. And I'm just going to scrape down the sides. So if you didn't have all the pumpkin, you could actually use different vegetables and do exactly the same thing to make it up to that amount. So if you had turnips or Swedes or zucchini, broccoli, you could use half carrot and half something else. You could actually just make up the amount of vegetables that you need just to get yourself a nice veggie soup instead of just a pumpkin soup. And now I'm going to add some water, which is 500 grams of water. And then vegetable stock paste. For those of you who've got a Thermomix, who makes veggie stock paste all the time? Yeah. Who makes chicken stock paste? Yeah, they're my 2 favorites. I always have those in the fridge and freezer. So I'm just going to put in, I always go double. So I put in 2 big spoonfuls of the stock. And then we're going to place the simmering basket over the top. So for anyone who has TM31, TM5 or TM6, once we get over 95 degrees, we add the simmering basket to the top instead of the measuring cup so that more steam goes out. And we're just going to cook that for 20 minutes, 100 degrees on speed 1. Back to you, Megan.
Thank you. All right, I just rinsed my butter a couple more times, so that is nice and clear now. But we're going to jump into our buttermilk bread. So this recipe is on cookie dough, and it's a really versatile loaf, and it's really beautiful and soft as well. So you can make it in lots of different ways. Kim's actually pre-made a loaf for us, which she cooked in the tin. I'm going to show you how to actually make the bread, and then I've already got a pre-made
Yeah, I'm
dough
doing
here
well,
as well.
thank you. And you?
Yeah, we're doing okay. We're doing okay.
I'm going to show you how to make rolls out of it as well. So just a few different options. All right, so the first thing we do is weigh in our beautiful fresh buttermilk. So we want 180 grams of buttermilk. We're a little bit short. We've got 150. So the next step is to add some water. So I'll just add 30 grams extra water to make up that difference.
And the buttermilk freezes really well, because when I made the buttermilk bread today, that was buttermilk that I had in the freezer. I usually just put it into 50 gram lots and or 100 gram lots, and I just made up the amount of buttermilk that I needed.
Yeah, beautiful. And you will always get different amounts too, because it depends on the fat content of your cream as to how much buttermilk versus butter that you'll get. And that can vary across even the seasons. If you are ever trying to cook with, and a recipe asks for buttermilk and you don't have any, you can do 1/3 yogurt, 2/3 normal milk, and it just gives it that little bit of acidity that the buttermilk will give it. So that's quite often what I default to. So 200 grams of water, 2 teaspoons of dried instant yeast. Does anyone cook with fresh yeast, or does everyone use dried yeast? This is obviously the easiest thing to use. Keep it in your fridge or your freezer, because that keeps it at a low temperature and it will last a lot longer. It can start to deactivate in warm temperatures. So to get the yeast nice and happy, what you'll notice in your TM6 is that a recipe quite often asks you to heat it to 37 degrees. So that's the optimum temperature to activate your yeast, to get it feeling nice and alive and happy so that it can do what it needs to do with your flour and the sugars in there, starting the fermentation. So we pop that on and let it do its thing for 3 minutes. What are we going to talk about for 3 minutes?
Well, I was going to say, who doesn't have a cookie dough account at the moment? I can't see anything.
No one admitting to it.
Right. Okay.
Hopefully that's because everybody has cookie dough.
Well,
Cara, is there a good dairy-free alternative to buttermilk? I don't know is the answer. My understanding is that buttermilk is a little bit more acidic than normal milk. And so perhaps just adding a little bit more acidity, whether it's a little bit of lemon juice, just a squirt of lemon juice. Like I said, adding a little bit of yogurt. If anyone else has got more ideas on that, please feel free to share them.
oh,
Laura,
good.
your cookie dough is about to expire, but hard to imagine not having it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
What I might do is... Sorry, I've just had a little intruder come and want to give me a cuddle. Nothing like a distraction like that to throw you off what you're thinking. All right, I'm going to go share screen. And where did I put them? I think we're over here. All right, so this is cookie dough. So hopefully you're all really familiar with cookie dough. Yeah, Laura, don't know how I could possibly live without cookie dough either. As a matter of fact, yeah, I'm just terrible now. Like if I try to...
I think we've lost her.
I think we might have too. She's
Yeah.
gone.
We've lost Megan. If anybody finds her, please bring her back.
I'm sure she'll pop back on again. But I was just
Yep.
looking, I thought, oh, is it me or is it Megan?
No, it's Megan. She's got a better offer by the look of it.
That's all right. So she was doing cookie dough, and I haven't got cookie dough up, so I can't share. But I can tell you a few other things. Oh, Megan Rourke is coming in again. So there you go. She's back.
Oh my goodness, I bumped the power button and kicked myself out. Sorry about that, guys.
Good on you, Megan.
Ah! Yes, the little intruder came back as well. All right, so I'll come back to cookie dough since we got bumped off that. 3 minutes over here has finished. All right. So
You spotlight
now
yourself again.
pardon?
You spotlight yourself.
Spotlight.
again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, I'm back properly. Okay, so that's at 37 degrees now. So our yeast is feeling all happy and active. And we're going to add 500 grams of baker's flour. Now, baker's flour has a higher protein content than, it says 447, but I did pre-weigh it, so hopefully it's all right. It has a higher protein content, which is better for making bread than just your plain flour. So you'll find it at the supermarket. It's usually in a bigger bag down the bottom of the shelf, but it's worth investing in if you're making lots of bread. A teaspoon of salt. Very full teaspoon. And our lid back on, and we just mix that for 6 seconds. And then that one goes on to knead for 3 minutes. So it's a really quick and easy one. Won't take you long to whip up at all. While that does whip up, I will try that again. I'll go back to cookie dough. And we will have a little look at a couple of the things that we can do here in cookie dough. So, if you've got any cookie dough questions, please feel free to ask those in the chat too, because we can answer them while we're here. You can search in lots of different ways. So you can search for a particular recipe. So if you wanted to find pumpkin soup, you could just type that in, and up would come 93 different pumpkin soup recipes from all around the place. Some of them you can see aren't actually pumpkin soup. They're muffins or lattes. It must say something about soup somewhere in that recipe. You can also just search for an ingredient. So if you think, you know, I've been given this beautiful big pumpkin, what am I going to do with it? Just search for pumpkin. Now you've got 329 different options. So you can scroll through, see something that you like the look of, or I would suggest jump into your filters and narrow it down a little bit. So do I want a soup? Do I want a pasta dish? Do I want a main dish? Do I want a sweet baking dish? So lots of different options there. Let's go sweet baking. You can also add in another ingredient. So if you've got something else in your fridge that you want to use up, you can pop that in there as well, which is a great way to narrow down and use up what you've got and save lots of money. You can exclude things that you really don't like. Just be mindful though that quite often with a recipe, you can actually just leave something out or substitute it. So if I put in there pumpkin, I might eliminate a lot of recipes where I could have just left the pumpkin out. Tags. So in tags, you can put in things like dairy-free, nut-free, gluten-free. You can put in Christmas, Valentine's, lunchbox, all sorts of things that our recipes are all tagged with to find different categories of things. You can also narrow down by time, by portion size, and also by rating. And then you can also include different accessories that you've got, and also language and area, or region. And I do suggest select English language, but don't select Australia, because if you select Australia, you leave out Canada, United Kingdom, and United States. So there's lots more recipes that you'll get if you just search for English language and leave off the region. So back to our pumpkin baking sweet treats. You can see there are lots of different things. These baked pumpkin donuts I have tried and are delicious. When you bring up the recipe, you can scroll through, have a little look at the ingredients, the method, the nutritional content. These are the tags that I was talking about. So they're tagged with children's food, vegetarian, nut-free, autumn, spring, summer, winter. There you go. They're all round. Children's birthday, tips and tricks on how to store them, those sorts of things. You can cook it today, which means it automatically comes over to your TM6. So when you've got a TM6, unlike the TM5, we don't have to sync it or press any buttons. Any changes that you make in your app or on your computer within your Cookie Do account automatically come over to your screen. We can also add to our week, to any day. We can add them to a collection. So we can start as many collections as we want, whatever names we want to call them, however we want to do it. And we can add it to our shopping list. So if I add that to my week for tomorrow and also add it to my shopping list, I'm just making life a little bit easier for myself. Here, you'll also see the serving size button. So you can click on this. Now, sometimes when you pop up that button, it will automatically give you different sizing options. However, this one doesn't. And all that means of the nearly, 100,000 recipes on Cookie Do, we haven't been able to run a human eyeball over the algorithm that changes the quantities. So you can make it your own and change the sizing. It'll take it into the created recipes for you, and you can choose up here how many serves you want that to be, and it will put it through the algorithm. It just wants you to double check this because it might come up with something strange like 3/4 of an egg. All right, so that's what that means when it says it hasn't had a human eye go over it. But it will still work for you, and it will still adjust your recipe to be how you want it to be. Once you've got your weekly plan all sorted, it'll start to look a little bit like this. So today we're doing the butter and the buttermilk. Tomorrow, Korean fried chicken and baked pumpkin donuts. And over here, you can see my shopping list. And I've got my ingredients. They come up categorized. So if you were walking through the supermarket with your phone, you could be ticking these off as you walk through, making it nice and quick and easy for you. You can send, share that, print it, share it with your hubby if he's picking up the groceries on the way home or one of the kids. Or you can press order ingredients and you'll connect straight up to Woolies, where you pop it all in your cart and check out and get yourself click and collect or delivery. I love this because it just makes it so simple. It picks a mid-range brand. If I don't want White Wings plain flour, I can press swap and it brings up all of the other brands of flour that I can then select from. So it's really simple to find the ingredients that you want. Who's had a go of that? Is everyone making the most of these functions?
I have a question. How did you get to the shopping list again?
Oh.
Haven't seen it before. It's really cool.
Okay. So I'll show you again. Now, it looks a little bit different on the computer than it does on your phone. Now I've lost where it is. I think it's that one. There it is. Okay. So when you're in your shopping list, I've got here order ingredients. If you're on your phone, there's 3 little dots up the top on the right-hand side when you're in your meal plan. If you press, in your shopping list, sorry, if you press those 3 little dots, one of the options is order ingredients. So have a little play with that, see if you can find it. If not, reach out to your consultant or hang about at the end of this session and we'll go through that with you a little bit more. But right now I want to show you what we've got going on over here with our bread. So there's my dough, kneaded beautifully. Obviously the Thermomix is super efficient at kneading. 15 minutes of hand kneading is equivalent to about 2 minutes of kneading in your Thermomix. So really nice and quick and easy. Clear a little bit of space here. What we're going to do is tip our dough out onto our Thermomat. So hopefully you guys have all got one of these. If you're intending to make bread, you definitely want one of these. It is available as a host reward. It comes in a duo pack with the other little mat that goes on your baking tray. This one here. Mine's looking a little bit browned. But these mean that you don't have to line your tray. You don't have to use baking paper and things like that. You just use the silicone mat. But this big one is all about proving dough. It's got the beautiful circles for rolling out pastry and things like that. Now you can see what I'm doing is just twisting the bottom of the blade here. And then out comes my dough. Did everybody know that trick? This is a little bit of a stickier dough. If you were doing, pizza dough or something like that, that would just plop straight out when you give it a little twist. So I'll just scrape out as much as I can. Now, if you've got dough stuck in there that you can't get out, just pop it back on for a second. I just went home and I'll just crank it up to speed 10 for about 2 seconds. And it just throws off the rest of the dough. See, it's all around the edges now. And I can just scrape it out nice and easily, rather than trying to fiddle around the blades. All right, so this one just needs a chance to rise. So I'm going to wrap it up just like that. So with your Thermomat, you don't have to grease a bowl or use cling film or anything like that. That's just going to sit now and double in size, which will be about an hour. Here's one I prepared earlier. So I made this one at 6:45. You can see how much it's grown. Now, rising takes into account lots of variables. It depends on the temperature and all of those sorts of things. So you do want to put it somewhere warm. You can use your thermoserver. Stick your whole Thermomat in your thermoserver if you're somewhere where it's a bit cold. But you can see that that has risen. It's looking really light and airy and fluffy. And what we want to do now is, I'm going to show you how to make, what I could do is sort of fold that up nicely. Just knock it down a little bit and fold it up and pop it in my bread tin and make a loaf. This is the mix shop bread tin. So if I popped it straight in there, I'd get a high top loaf. If I popped the lid on, I'd get a nice square loaf. You can also, don't know where that came from. You can also do a free form bread using the Banneton basket, which you might have seen people using for sourdough and things like that. So you can use those as well. But what we're going to do is make some bread rolls. I reckon I'll probably get 8 decent sized rolls out of this. I should have a dough scraper, but it's out there somewhere. So I'll just use my spatula. Never use a sharp knife on your bread mat because you could cut it, but your spatula is fine. And I'm going to cut this and do probably 4 rolls. 8 rolls, sorry, so 4 in each. You can weigh them if you're that way inclined and you like everything to be exact and perfect. I'm not that way inclined. All right, so what you want to do is create a little bit of surface tension across the top so that you get a nice crusty top on your roll, but also it keeps it nice and light and fluffy. So all I'm doing is kind of stretching the top and tucking it under. So this is the same way that I do my pizza balls once my dough's done a bulk rise. So you get a nice little roll, and then you can pop it down and you can just move it around to make it nice and round. Right? Now we've let it rise. We've got some beautiful air in there, so we're being very gentle. We don't want to flatten it and squash it too much. But just kind of moving it around, tucking those bits under. And getting it nice and round. That looks pretty easy, doesn't it?
They do look good.
I'll show you one more. So just stretching over and tucking under. And then sit your hand on top and just roll it around. So what I'll do with those is pop them on a tray. They will need to rise again. What will I do? So you want them to come together a little bit. So you know how you buy your rolls and they're all joined together and then they're nice and soft on the middle. So don't put them too far apart. They will rise and join together. So they'll probably have about 20 more minutes to rise. And then I'll pop them in the oven and cook them. And then we'll have some beautiful rolls.
Well,
I'm excited to give those a try.
So my soup has finished. And the next thing we're going to do is add some cream. And again, because I like a more creamy soup, I increase my cream to about between 50 and 80 grams of cream. And I always have one of these creams in, hang on, get the right thing, in the pantry. They last for ages, and like I'll use this and then I can use the rest to make a quiche or a frittata or something like that. So I'm just going to add 50 grams. It says 30, but I like 50 to 80 grams just to make it nice and creamy. And then we're going to pop the measuring cup in. And we're going to go around to speed 5. And the secret to this is you go to speed 5, listen to when the blades are going at the same speed, and then increase it to speed 9.
I'll just answer a couple of questions while that's happening, Kimmy. So Julia, yes, I always like to give my dough a bulk rise. So that's the first rise that you let it do. And then you play with it, shape it, manipulate it, do whatever you're doing with it. And then it's always a good idea to just let it rise again a little bit because you've squashed a lot of the air out of it before you actually bake it. All right. I know a lot of recipes. So the Thermomix jumbo loaf, which is on Cookie Dough, one of the most popular white bread loaves, you pop that in the tin and you wait until it rises right to the top of the tin again before you bake it. So it's a good idea to get it to sort of the size that you want it before you pop it in the oven.
Brilliant, thank you. Maybe that's where I'm going wrong.
Yeah, give it a go. That should
Very
lighten it up a
spongy.
little.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. Yeah, give that a go. It's always hard to tell too because, you know, the temperature and those sorts of things are so variable. But ideally, from when your dough is first made, you want it to double in size. So kind of have a good look at the size of it when you wrap it up and fold it. And you want it to be kind of quite airy and bigger before you start playing with it again.
I'm just going to see if I can you see how creamy that is?
And see it. Don't tip it all over your bench.
Oh, I won't. But you can, I always taste it before I add extra salt and pepper or anything like that. And and then just serve it with our lovely bread, which I've made a loaf of the buttermilk bread today. And I'll just move that back so you can see it. And I always suggest get yourself a really good bread tin, like something that's like good quality, because you don't have to grease it or anything like that. It just automatically just slips out. And a good bread knife so that you can cut it. And I might cut it this way because this bread cuts perfect.
And we're very biased, but the Mix Shop has very good quality products. And hopefully you've all seen by now that we've got a new loyalty program. So when you sign up to become a member of the Mix Shop Rewards now, you actually get a $15 welcome voucher to spend. If you put your birth date in, you get a $10 voucher on your birth date. And every dollar that you spend in the Mix Shop adds up, and then you'll get vouchers back to spend as well. So a little bit like your Flybuys, but for your Mix Shop. Just our way of thanking you for being loyal. And like Kim said, you know, if you get a good quality bread tin, it'll last you for years. I've been thermomixing for 8 years, and this is the first tin that I bought from the Mix Shop, and it's still the one that I'm using, and nothing sticks. I do all my bread loaves, all my banana bread, everything in there.
Mine's 9 years old, Megan. And
There you go.
It's just the same, and I use it all the time. So, but this bread is such a nice, can you see that? It's so soft and like, yeah, it's just got a really nice texture. So my hubby's going to be very happy little man tomorrow having his sandwiches.
Yes, yes. All right, I want to show you a couple of other things just before we finish off. I'm just going to share my screen again and find the right page. Why do I have so many things open? I'll just do that one. All right, so just in case you guys don't know yet, we have an amazing offer for you to come and join us as Thermomix consultants. As you can see, we have a lot of fun. We're very passionate about what we do. We get to work really flexible lifestyles around our families and our other jobs and all of those sorts of things. At the moment, our business kit is half price. So if you have a TM6, you've already got your business partner. For just $75, you get everything else you need and all of your training and all of your support from your team leaders and beyond to join our business and to create a little side hustle for yourself. And maybe it's not going to be a side hustle. Maybe it's going to be a full-time career. Maybe it's going to be you coming back into the workforce. Whatever it is, there is an opportunity for you here with us at Thermomix, and we would love to have you. So please let your consultant know. If you're even just a little bit curious, you can jump on one of our info sessions. They're obligation free. We all love our Thermomixes. We all sell them to our friends when we're not consultants, so we might as well be getting paid for it. Plus, we get a lot of great incentives, and you probably won't need to go shopping on the Mix Shop because you'll earn all of your incentives. The next thing I'd like to quickly show you is our most incredible offer ever. So at the moment, when you purchase your TM6, you also get a free second bowl, blade and lid set, a copy of our Creating Something Incredible cookbook, which is a beautiful book, really telling the story of Thermomix in Australia and how Grace and her family brought Thermomix to Australia, and a $200 Woolworths supermarket e-gift card to spend on whatever you like. So really helping at the moment with, you know, the cost of living and those sorts of things. This is available until the 30th of September. For those of you with a TM31 considering trading up, you will also get this same offer, plus you'll get $380 off the cost of your Thermomix, and you get to keep your TM31, all right? Because we know you love them. Unfortunately, we cannot service them anymore. Parts are not made for the TM31 anymore, so we're unable to service them. However, you know, we really do appreciate your loyalty and know that you've been with Thermomix and part of the family for a long time. So that's why we're offering you this beautiful deal. And And one other thing, which I don't have an image for, but if you don't have time to host a demo, and hopefully you all have hosted demos, you know that that's a great way to get your hands on a thermoserver, the mats, the cutter attachment, the vacuum seal. Oh, so many of our best accessories are available as host rewards. However, if you've got a friend who's interested in a Thermomix and you don't have time to host a demo, we do have a $100 Mix Shop referral voucher that you can get if you refer a friend who goes on to purchase. So that's a really nice way, again, of us being able to thank you for sharing your Thermi love with your friends and family and passing that on to your consultant. So if you would like your unique referral link, again, chat with your consultant and they can get that for you, and you can share that as many times as you like with friends and family. So a great way for you to get some favorite things from the Mix Shop. All right. Does anyone have any questions for us? Hopefully you've all learned something tonight, a little tip or a little trick, something you didn't know, something you want to try.
Maybe put it in the chat if you've learned
Yeah.
something you didn't know.
We do have lots of cooking classes. So if this is your first cooking class, your first foray into cooking classes, come along to one of our face-to-face classes. They are so much fun. We demonstrate 8 or 10 different dishes. We give you lots more hints and tips. You try all of the food. You'll walk away feeling really inspired to try different things. And you can find all of those on our website. So if you go to thermomix.com.au, you'll find the events tab and you'll be able to search through and find events in your area. Kim and I are going down to Batehaven this weekend to do a class down there. We haven't had a class down there for a long time, so we're really excited to get down there and see the Thermomix community down there. But we've got lots of classes coming up with Christmas fast approaching. We have lots of Christmas classes coming up as well. Yeah, just let us know. We also run cookie do classes, so I did see a couple of little posts of people saying that they hadn't been using cookie do very much. Chat with your consultant, keep your eye out for one of our specific cookie do classes, because for 20 minutes or half an hour we just run through how to really get the most out of using cookie do, shopping lists, creating recipes, all of those sorts of things.
Sue, we're coming up to Corrimal on I think it's the 20th of October, Megan, on Sunday the 20th for a high tea class.
Yes, that's right. Corrimal on the 20th. And then we're down in Piree. So we haven't specifically gone to Kiama, but we're kind of skirting around the outside. It's not too far away.
Oh, that's good, Lynn. Enjoy your soup.
Yeah, glad to hear it.
I did Lynn's delivery yesterday and she made the pea and mint soup after I left. We made veggie stock paste and then she made the pea and mint soup for dinner. It looked good.
Very good. Excellent. Keep an eye out too, guys, for your local Facebook groups. So we've got the South Coast Thermomixes page down here in the South Coast. I know there's a MacArthur region page. We've got a Canberra Thermomixes page. I can't remember the name of the Sydney ones, but there's lots of them around where all of the consultants get on and share tips and recipes and all of our classes and things like that are going on. Marlene, when are we at Piree?
I think it's the 14th of December and we're at Milton.
No.
That's a Christmas class, the 14th
Yes.
of December at Piree. And then we're at Milton, I think it's in November. I'll let you know, Marlene, because I'll send it out to everybody. But I know we're in Piree 14th of December.
Good. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, happy thermomixing and thank you so much for joining us. Keep an eye out for our next online classes.
Thanks, everyone, for coming. It's been great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, girls.
Thanks, Rowena.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Kirsty, for jumping in and attacking the keyboard.
Bye, Lynn.
No worries. Sorry, my internet was a little bit slow, so I may have been a little bit slow there for a bit.
At least you didn't bump yourself off halfway through.
That was classic.
Oh, dear.